There are some events so mysterious that even centuries later, the veil of secrecy surrounding them remains unbroken. Throughout history, countless incidents have occurred, but a few have left their mark not because of what they were, but because they were never solved. One night, a quiet town, and when you wake up the next morning, strange tracks in the snow-covered streets that defy all logical explanation. These single-file hoof prints stretch from one end of the village to the other, sometimes appearing on rooftops, other times crossing over walls, pushing the boundaries of reason. Was this merely a bizarre natural phenomenon? Or had some demonic force truly wandered the streets that night? In this video, we'll follow the trail of a mysterious event that took place in 1855 in Devon, England, an unsolved case that continues to baffle to this day. If you're ready, let's take a closer look at one of the strangest mysteries in history. By the way, if you enjoy this kind of content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video. Your support means a lot to me. Welcome to my channel, Discovery of the Mystery, where we will uncover the secrets. In February of 1855, one of the coldest winters ever recorded struck England. With temperatures dropping to as low as -5 degrees Celsius, the freezing conditions lasted from January to March, bringing with them severe snowstorms throughout the season. On February 8, 1855, the residents of a seemingly ordinary town in the mid-Devon region of England experienced yet another stormy night and woke up to an icy February morning. But when they stepped outside to go about their daily routines, they quickly realized that this was no ordinary day, because what lay before them were strange footprints stretching from one end of the village to the other. Shocked by the sight, the townspeople began gathering in the center of the village, armed with tools like scythes and axes. Hearing the commotion in the town square, police officer John Loosemore rushed over, trying to figure out what was causing the uproar. When he arrived, he found the noise was coming from the panicked villagers, yet Loosemore couldn't understand what had them so frightened. At first glance, the tracks around the area looked no different from the usual hoof prints left by a cloven-footed animal. Turning to the villagers, he asked why they were acting this way, but the townspeople shoved and pushed him, insisting he follow the tracks in the direction they led. So Loosemore began tracking the prints, and soon he understood what had the villagers so terrified. These prints continued in a straight line, never stopping even when they encountered obstacles. For example, when the tracks reached a building wall, they would continue on the other side, unbroken and straight, as if they had passed right through the wall. Unable to figure out how these prints were moving through solid structures, Loosemore asked someone nearby for a ladder and climbed to the roof of a nearby single-story house. But whatever he saw on that roof must have deeply disturbed him, because when he came back down, the crowd noticed his face had gone pale, like he'd just seen a ghost. After a brief silence, Loosemore turned to the crowd and explained that the tracks continued across the rooftop and that whatever had made them had walked over everything in its path, from carts to market stalls, without hesitation. Upon hearing this, the villagers fell into a deep, uneasy silence. It appeared that something, or someone, supernatural had wandered around the town during the night, leaving behind only these hoof-like tracks. And this incident hadn't occurred in just one location. As mentioned earlier, the first few months of 1855 brought extraordinarily cold weather to England, and especially the southwest of the country was blanketed in snow for weeks on end. The Axe and Tyne rivers in the Devon region were occasionally filled to capacity, and the snowstorms that followed made roads and paths nearly inaccessible. Under these conditions, people in the area were confined to their homes for extended periods. It was precisely in this setting that, on February 9th, unusual reports began arriving at the Exeter police station. These reports described strange, unexplainable tracks appearing in various towns across the Devon region. As the hours passed, more and more sightings of these mysterious, single-file footprints in the snow were reported, particularly from settlements along the southern coastline. Responding to the reports, authorities dispatched teams to surrounding towns to investigate what these tracks could be. Initial inquiries revealed that the tracks spanned an area of roughly 160 kilometers. Further reports received later that evening showed that the prints began in the town of Teignmouth and extended all the way to Weymouth, passing through exactly 30 different settlements. The tracks averaged about 6 centimeters in size and resembled the shape of a hoof. However, these prints were noticeably different from those of any known hoofed animal. The most striking difference was that the tracks appeared to have been made with only 2 legs. Additionally, there was about a 20-centimeter gap between each footprint, and instead of being spread side by side, the prints followed a single straight line. This gave the impression that the tracks might have been made by a one-legged creature or object. But what made things even stranger was the path these tracks followed. Nothing seemed capable of stopping whatever had made them. The prints appeared on steep rooftops, passed over tall walls from one side to the other in a straight line, and even crossed deep riverbeds and thorny brush without any disruption in the pattern. Some reports even claim the tracks passed through the openings of tanneries, reappeared on rooftops, and could be seen again in places like haylofts. The trail wasn't entirely random, nor did it follow a perfectly straight line. In some areas, the tracks seemed to avoid man-made structures, while in others they deliberately approached doors and windows, suggesting intention. This gave the impression that the creature or entity responsible was not moving aimlessly, but was following some kind of conscious path or purpose. Despite collecting hundreds of witness statements and conducting thorough field investigations, the police were unable to pursue the case further due to fresh snowfall that soon covered the tracks. The lack of a clear explanation at the time caused the incident to become something of a legend among the people. Over time, residents of the region came to believe that these bizarre tracks could only have been made by one being, the devil himself. In short, people believed that the devil had walked the earth, wandered through the towns of Devon, and left behind only these mysterious footprints. At this point, however, scientists and researchers attempted to explain the event not through mysticism, but through observable data and logical hypotheses. So what were these possible explanations? One of the most plausible early theories was that the tracks had been made by a nocturnal animal. In particular, badgers, foxes, and rats were considered potential culprits. That's because, when viewed from a distance, the tracks left by these animals in snow can indeed appear as a single line. That might have also triggered the public's confusion at the time. In fact, some researchers argued that the tracks had been left by a leaping animal. However, these hypotheses also fell short in many areas. That's because the tracks weren't just found on flat paths. They continued in the same pattern on steep rooftops, along chimney edges, through narrow passages, and even atop high walls. A more unusual theory that later emerged claimed the tracks might have belonged to a kangaroo. As bizarre as that sounds, there are actually some documents suggesting that during the mid-19th century, kangaroos had been illegally released or escaped from private estates in rural England. The idea was that a kangaroo's powerful hind legs could explain the evenly spaced prints seen in the towns of Devon. But this theory was weak as well, since it relied on the assumption that a kangaroo could survive the harsh winter conditions of England. A more speculative hypothesis suggested that the tracks were caused by the tether ropes of a military balloon. According to author Geoffrey Household, an experimental military balloon from one of the shipyards in Devon may have gone out of control during the storm, and its dragging mooring ropes might have left such marks in the snow. But even this theory failed to explain how the tracks passed seamlessly across rooftops and through narrow gaps. So, what really happened in Devon that night? Was it an animal, a natural event, or did some dark force quietly roam the streets of the town? To this day, no theory has been able to fully unravel the mystery behind those footprints. And perhaps that's exactly why that cold February morning in 1855 is still told from one generation to the next. Because some tracks never fade, some questions remain unanswered, and some mysteries are never forgotten. So what do you think? You can share your thoughts on this topic in the comments. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed my content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and stay tuned. You can support my channel by liking and commenting on my content. Until we meet again.